You're welcome to today's edition of Joe News Today, and here's our first story. The former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ivan Adai-Mensah, says Senyor Hosi demonstrated the worst form of thinking for his outburst on the quality of graduates produced by his alma mater. He, however, admits large class sizes and inadequate funding have led to a decline in the quality of education.
He had some points, but they were not well presented, they were distorted, and I don't think enough thought went into it. He was accusing people that they are not able to think, but I thought he advertised worse ways of thinking than one would have expected. You know, a university is not a glorified vocational institution where people come to be trained to fit into every type of job that is out there on the market. If you take even one job, like even the media, there is so much variety, and there is no way that a school of communication studies can train everybody to fit into every aspect of media and then go into the world and fit into a job immediately. Your mind is trained to be able to adopt and adapt at a university. That is what a university means. It is when you get on the job, and the employer must be prepared to employ you and challenge you with whatever challenges he has in his institution there, and have you trained on the job. Once you've been through the university system, it takes you far less time to get accustomed and adjusted to the requirements of the job. Nobody can walk from a university straight into a job. It's not a vocational institution. Even in a vocational institution, if you train a mechanic on one type of engine, when he goes to work in another institution where a different engine is, he is trained on that engine to be able to become an expert on it. So to come and stand there and say the universities are not training people to go and fit into the world of work, or they are not training innovators, they are not training thinkers, I think it's rather sad. We shouldn't run down our revered institutions that way. We are supposed not to charge over and above a certain amount of money to keep the universities viable. And yet we expect miracles from these institutions. How can you expect miracles from an institution that is underfunded by over 70%? How do you expect to get that? So it is true, we are not producing at the level that we can. We have a lot, we've done well, but we can still do a lot better. But that person who spoke should have stopped and thought, what is making us not perform to our maximum? In spite of all the difficulties that the University of Ghana is facing, our students are still among the best in the world. What is accounting for that? It is the quality of teachers and the dedication and devotion to duty of the people who are working there now, which is making that possible. That is the miracle. And people should give them some respect and honor for being able to do that and not run them down.
Professor Ivan Adai-Mensah is former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana. So what exactly did Senyor Hosi say? In case you haven't seen or heard it yet, this will help.
I have 3 degrees, all from the University of Ghana. I wouldn't hire anybody. It's simple. And it's a matter of substance. What do you churn out? You are churning out people with degrees, not people with an education, not people with skills on how to live. That is the problem. And respectfully, the old men running this school, there are too many. Get them out. You guys are not doing anything that is relevant for the future. And you won't get people wanting to employ the people out of this place. Your MBA students, plenty of them I will hire. Your MBA, your classmates, I won't hire. I was also in that school. Why? How many tears have you written people's theses? We are sitting here. This is the 70th. I mean, can you imagine? University of Ghana, 70th anniversary.
Look at the audience.
What kind of communication went on to promote this program? Meanwhile, we are supposed to have a marketing department at the business school and a whole communication school, whatever it is. Look at the number of people here. This is a school of mediocrity. Look at the panelists, their tables. No place for them to even keep their books and things and water. You have to go on the floor. This typifies what you are sitting in, Prof. If you want to fix it, forget about this, your 70 years and your University of Ghana. I bluff a lot with my school because whatever it is, this is where I come from. But forget it. The world has moved on. You are not going to live for your past glories anymore. People come here because it is a to-do. I must get a degree. That is the reason why people are coming here. Yeah. You must make people cease wanting to come for a degree, but people want to come for an education. And with certain skills that make them viable in the future. Your children don't have skills that make them viable for the future. They don't have the thinking. They are robots. Even that robot, they can't even do it. I'm telling you. So if you want to fix it, it starts with you guys as lecturers. It starts with being the thinkers. You guys are not thinking. Respect.
So that was CEO of the bulk oil distribution company, Senyo Husi, speaking at a stakeholders forum of the university's 70th anniversary celebrations. Well, the first person from the university to publicly react to those comments you just heard is a lecturer at the political science department, Professor Ransford Jampo. He disagreed with Mr. Husi's insistence that the university lecturers or management were not thinking.
And I find it difficult to understand why he would come to the same institution and bag 3 degrees, an institution that is made up of non-thinkers. We've always been thinking. Sometimes you sleep and then you wake up and you are tired. You go to a hospital and they tell you that you are thinking. You are always thinking. We're always thinking about what you research on and how to improve upon our quality of our teaching. We're thinking about everything. We are always thinking. And so without thinking, you cannot have scholarly works being done and all that. So that's number one. And he sought to compare our school to other private schools and said he wasn't going to be hiring people there and all that. I think he hasn't read anything about rankings of public universities. Otherwise, then he would know that none of the private universities come close to UG, for instance, in terms of global rankings and all that, in spite of the difficulties and challenges that UG goes through every year and all that. And I'm sure he's not aware that there are so many difficulties and challenges confronting the university as it stands now. The university is unable to increase even fees. We are paying, students are paying about 2,000 cedis a year. And if you go to other private universities, they are paying about $10,000 a year compared to two. I'm aware that the university before this academic year wanted to increase residential facilities user fee. We didn't get the support of Parliament. And so how do you maintain infrastructure? How do you deal with the class sizes? One class sometimes could go as if we may have as many as 1,000 and 1,500 students in a class.
Well, Mr. Husi, who seemed to have found the response rather dismissive, warned the University of Ghana will become an expired Kimbu or Nokia 3310 if lecturers fail to accept the truth. He spoke early on the Super Morning Show.
I find well, I may be somewhat misunderstood, but I find his submission quite unfortunate. I think he represents some of the young lecturers we actually have, and should actually show more of a modern view of what UG should be. But his submission, respectfully, seems to summarize what UG has significantly been over the years. UG has been a monologue. It does not easily take criticisms and honest feedback. And you can't find better feedback but from the employers who absorb your output. I mean, UG does fantastic research. You find UG inputs in journals all over the world. But honestly, to what end would that be if that's not translating into the employability of your output? I think that I find Jampo's submission quite unfortunate. I think that he represents some of the young and the young lecturers you have, and should actually represent the modern face of what UG should be. But his submissions, respectfully, typify what UG has often been: a monologue, an absolute monologue. Difficult taking criticism, feedback, honest feedback that actually required to help turn things around. Like I said in my submission, I have 3 degrees. I have no other university. Prof, I can afford to go to the universities I probably want to have, but I'm passionate about my school. I love my school, and I have no regrets about being candid about it and also being passionate about it.
This debate has attracted lots of comments on social media and many other platforms. Let's just share a few with you. We picked from Twitter. At S.O. Dumu says, those who genuinely oppose oppression and destructive leadership are few. There are more of greedy agitators around. He says, hashtag stop the hypocrisy. And at Aaron_game time says, what can I say, bro? It's worse in KNUST. And you know, let's not go far with our cause. We were still on 1990 editing styles without any innovation. How dare you make suggestions to a lecturer? He will get angry and make things tough. But how Senor Hosi said it is some way. And at Daniel_Amwabing says, Senor Hosi is saying the truth to the management of the University of Ghana, but sometimes be sure you don't lose yourself trying to help someone else find themselves. And at Kwame_Frimpong says, all what he said, I mean, Mr. Senor Hosi, was the fact and on point. If our education system is what they say it is, why do they prefer Western education for their awards, either be it in Ghana or outside? The hypocrisy is real and it's sad. Well, the issue of enhancing the declining quality of graduates churned out by the country's tertiary institutions has always been a major concern to industry players and government. Well, President and founder of Ashesi University, Patrick Ewa, recently made a case for a new era in the country's education sector when he featured on TED Talk.
Severe crisis of teaching and learning on the continent. The Africa Learning Barometer, for example, identifies 12 countries, including Nigeria and Ghana, where over 30% of children do not meet minimum standards for learning by their 3rd or 4th grades. The quality problem is especially vivid in higher education, with many graduates taking years to find their first formal employment. And employers, on the other hand, saying that university graduates are not well prepared and lack the critical skills necessary to secure jobs that currently exist. So here's the thing. It's not that Africa is not scaling up education, it is. Across the continent, countries are approaching full enrollment in basic education. And over the last 4 decades, higher education in sub-Saharan Africa has grown at double the rate of the rest of the world. So Africa is scaling up education. What hasn't been done yet, though, is to scale up quality and effectiveness. We're still teaching students to learn by rote. This is a legacy of our colonial era, which focused on training people to follow directions. Students are not encouraged to explore, to question the status quo. They're not encouraged to think critically or creatively. We're not actively fostering the values of ethics and empathy. And so our societies are burdened by rampant corruption perpetrated by some of our educated elite. The way we teach is wrong for today. It is even more wrong for tomorrow, given the challenges before us. And so we need to educate people differently, and we need to do it quickly. The question is, how? As a way of providing external motivation for institutions, I believe that African governments and educational leaders need to come together and agree on a continent-wide evaluation and ranking system that focuses on students and their growth and that focuses on impact in our countries. Most global ranking systems today are not designed around the unique context of Africa, the unique context of our universities. An Africa-centered ranking system would provide the direction and strengthen the motivation of leaders and faculty to focus on outcomes for students and for our society.
Away from the education sector, the execution of some government contracts are delayed as a result of some underhand dealings. Now, these have been uncovered in an investigative piece dubbed Contracts for Sale, and it reveals how these contracts are put up for sale. The documentary put together by freelance journalist Manasseh Azuri Awuni also exposes those behind it. The full piece airs tonight on Joy News Prime, but here's a teaser.
By reviewing contracts that will either sole source or procured through restrictive tender, the Akufo-Addo administration has made savings of 2.75 billion.
This is the contract for the construction of this road. How I came by this contract is both intriguing and disturbing.
If I understand you, we are having companies who are operating like the Guru boys, so more or less a Guru company. My goodness. God save this country.
This is you can check this out. Oh, you can.
So you can make a date with us tonight at 8:15 p.m. on the Joy News channel for that full documentary. Now, the next episode of Joy News' citizen-driven series, Dear Nanado, captures the worrying state of the homeless, including children, sleeping rough on the streets of Accra. Chapter 6 of the NPP's 2016 manifesto says the NPP government would, quote, develop housing units targeted at the vulnerable and marginalized, end quote. But what's the situation on the ground? We hear Ghanaians who heard and received the promises of then-candidate Akufo-Addo ahead of the 2016 elections in our latest Joy News series, Dear Nanado. Here's an excerpt of that mini-documentary, which airs later this evening on Joy News Prime.
Ain't got no home, ain't got no shoes, ain't got no money, ain't got no class, ain't got no skirts, ain't got no sweaters, ain't got no perfume, ain't got no love, ain't got no faith.
The Kwame Nkrumah Interchange, popularly known as Dubai, a home to many homeless people in the capital. A mother covers her baby from the cold.
Ain't got no brother, ain't got no children.
A husband, a wife, and a son slam it out on the cold concrete pavement because they do not have anywhere to lay their heads.
And as far as the people know, when I did this for need, we then stop it to like bulu bulu standuru.
Paragraph 4 of President Nana Akufo-Addo's vision to be president stated he chose to run for president because of the young man who never had a chance to go to school but is sleeping rough on the street of Accra.
We were not the one who tell him to say that thing in his manifesto. Neither we writing him letter to alert us by that. He is the one come out direct and told us that this and that is what he is going to do. So we are praying for God to touch his heart.
God bless our homeland, Ghana. God bless our homeland.
Dear Nanado.
To make a date with us later on Joy News Prime, you're still watching Joy News Today with me, Benes Abubedulansa. Still to come, Ghanaians in Bonduku, an Ivorian community along Ghana's border, are praising military officers there for their vigilance, but are furious with other border authorities who they accuse of corrupt practices. That's coming up shortly in Porous Borders. To stay. Thanks for staying here on Joe News today. Now, Ghanaians in Bondokwo, an Ivorian community along Ghana's border, are praising military officers there for their vigilance, but are furious with other border authorities they accuse of corrupt practices. We've got details coming up in our series Porous Borders put together by Anasabit.
Bonduku, a city in northeastern Ivory Coast, is the capital of the Zanzan district of the Gontougou region. It is a 15-minute drive to the nearest border town of Sampa, which is the capital of the German North district of the Bono region. It is a commercial area which attracts not just Ivorians, but thousands of Ghanaians, some of whom live here permanently. Some of them tell me they have very little confidence as far as security at the border posts here is concerned. They accuse security officers at the Sampa border of extortion, saying the officials hardly ever check their luggages whilst using the Sampa border. Kusi Apia is the leader of the Ghanaian traders at the Bontougou market. My biggest worry has to do with how immigration officials continuously extort monies from Ghanaians.
Ghana voting ID card, now we catch us here and to coin.
Even when you show them your ID card, they will go ahead and demand for money. The situation is not same here in Côte d'Ivoire because officers caught doing same are being fired by the state. For the rest of those doing businesses here, they cannot come to terms with the idea of paying money in order to be admitted into their own country when, according to them, Ivorian border officials only check their documents.
The
customs do not regard the cars issued to us by the ambassador. The Ivorian officials would allow us to go after showing them the card. The Ghanaian officials would say no unless we pay. It's worrying because the French officials do not treat us like that. When they request for your ID card, they will collect it and still demand for money. What my sister is saying is true. It's painful how we are being treated at the border. I had to fight with one of them the last time I visited. Immigration and custom officials stationed here were unavailable for comments when we attempted to get their response, but I was told military patrols are common at the unapproved routes in this area. Kwaku Fosu believes the military is doing a good job here. And he also believes the other officials here should be tasked to do same because, in his opinion, they are not.
Enema be blade here, enema be blade cost ba mo make na kasi bi anko board and so mo ye good work e soldier for nso no omo header emma omo kwanye omo djuma.
There are a lot of things going on wrong here, but to me, it is the military who are doing very well along the unapproved routes.
Soldier for ne there for peace baby a
they make sure they search you thoroughly when they meet you during their patrols. Ekuya Kuma is a resident of Soko, the immediate Ivorian town after Sampa. She has relatives in Ghana, but she would rather not visit them unless it is extremely necessary. She will do anything possible to avoid paying money at the border to enter her own country to visit her family.
Me
I don't like going to Ghana because of the money they take from us. So when nothing urgent happens, like a loss of a relative, I don't visit Ghana. She told me it is her wish that similar treatment will be meted out to Ghanaians who do visit the Ivory Coast. For me, the Ivorian officials should give Ghanaians same treatment, but they won't do it. You see, Ivorians are not wicked people, but for Ghanaians, they are not good people. There are about 9 other unapproved routes along the Ivory Coast sharing border with the Bono region. With the main activities being commercial, the communities keeps growing. The military may be patrolling the unmanned posts, but the question residents here ask is, for how long and can they be everywhere all the time? They wonder how government intends to redirect monies going to smugglers and border officials they accuse of extortion into the national coffers. They want authorities to check this before it gets out of hand. From Bondougou here in the Zanzan district of La Côte d'Ivoire, I am Anas Sabit for Joy News.
Now, the Ghana Police Service says the public must support its work to ensure that they succeed in their fight against crime. Greater Accra Region Police Commander DCOP Frederick Eduenim says crime can only be curbed if people give the police credible information. He was speaking at the launch of a police news magazine at the Greater Accra Region Police Headquarters in Accra.
The police publication focusing on the Greater Accra region is intended to bridge the communication gap between the general public and the police service. The first of its kind, the magazine is also aimed at creating alert community members who will inform the police of suspicious activities of strangers or even members of a community. Crime rates across the country are still on the rise, and the police say they need to act swiftly before the situation gets out of hand. Accra Regional Police Public Relations Officer DSP Efiatenge says this magazine should inform the public about how the police operates and their own duty of ensuring safety at all times.
The police diary like this, we don't want to create a vacuum, in the information space. What we are looking at is to analyze the trend crimes within a period of about 6 months. And definitely within the period of 6 months, we'll have a clear trend of how crime is going. And this is to complement what we are already doing. This is not going to take all that we do as a complementary to add up to what we're doing.
Tesano Divisional Police Commander Chief Superintendent Odro Aminin says the police is determined to guarantee the safety of residents of Achimota Mile 7, where criminal activities are rampant. He says his men have been assigned to patrol the area every night and urge residents to play their part by being vigilant.
The commanders, we are involved in patrolling within Mile 7 area, not Mile 7 alone, Tesano Division. we are all involved. We get ourselves involved. The district commanders, well, that is my 7th district commander and his crime officer, Tesano district commander and his crime officer, myself, the divisional commander and my crime officer, and then Achimota.
Coming up shortly here on Joy News Today's Business, and Ghana supports the establishment of an African shipping line to reduce cost of trading on the continent. Darryl Kwao is standing by with details. Do stay.